looking for? A bit of plastic crack? I'm your guy.
How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dance School here again today, and welcome to Warhammer Thoughty. Today's video is about addiction, specifically addiction to wargaming, but I'll compare it to other addictions. Now, just before we start, I want to give you a quick idea of what is defined as addiction with the dictionary.com definition. So, it's a noun. It's a state of being enslaved to a habit or practice or something that is physically and psychologically habit-forming, such as narcotics, to such an extent that its cessation causes extreme trauma. So let's talk for a second about real-world addictions. And when I say real-world addictions, I mean things that aren't wargaming, basically. So you can be addicted to things like drugs, legal drugs and illegal drugs. You can be addicted to things like alcohol, food, gambling. You can be addicted to many things in life, and it's those addictions that can lead to bad things happening to you. When I say bad things, that's a real generalisation. It can lead to things like breakups of relationships. It can lead to you turning to illegal activities in order to gain money to buy the things you need or to spend on the things you need. It can lead to loss of job. It can lead to you getting kicked out of a house. It can lead to many bad things in life. But the question is, can addiction to wargaming lead to those sorts of things? I can imagine wargaming can lead to, or addiction to wargaming can lead to the end of a relationship. It can put certain strains on a relationship the same way that any hobby can, like going out playing football or watching football with your mates or whatever other hobby people may have. It's all about dedication of time. We're all limited for the amount of time we have in the day, and if you don't put enough time into a relationship and you put in when you could be, but instead you put that time into your hobby, then that can lead to the downfall of a relationship. So it can definitely lead to the end of a relationship. The question about the other ones though, the other downsides of addiction, or effects of addiction if you like, I think in my experience, and I can only talk from my experience of this, it's not very likely to lead to like you getting kicked out of a house or evicted from a house basically because of like not paying rent, or it's not very likely to lead to you stealing and stuff like that. But I would say wargaming, and me in particular, I have an addiction to wargaming and to the miniatures that are released with wargaming, and I'm at the minute, especially with the Fall of Cadia stuff coming out, I'm really sort of biting my nails trying not to buy the Triumvirate of the Imperium. I've said to myself I'm not going to buy any miniatures until I've got a bit more of my stuff painted up. Now I'm working on Nick's New Year painting challenge at the minute on my Imperial 9, and once that's done I'll probably I might buy, because I think the next thing that's going to be released in big 40k thing that's going to be released is an Eldar Triumvirate, and Eldar being more close to my heart than the Imperial armies I have. I'm more likely to buy that, and then that be the spark I need to reignite the fire of the passion for the Eldar that I had when I was younger. But the question comes from that. You have to sit back and ask yourself, do I need that? Or do I just want it? And it's a tricky situation, because if that's the model, if there's a new model released, a new miniature released, and that's what's going to inspire you to go on and get more stuff painted, or you think it will, then you should really go out and buy that model. However, there's been many cases since I got back into the hobby 3-4 years ago, where I've just bought stuff and it's sat there because years ago, in like the late 90s, when I was first in the hobby, during like 2nd edition, there was only really the Eldar that I liked. The Orcs, I didn't like the aesthetic of the miniatures at all. And it was Eldar that got me back into the hobby as well. I was in work, I worked at a supermarket at the time, and I'd look at White Dwarf every now and again. And they had an Eldar flyer when it had just been released, the Eldar Crimson Hunter, on the front cover of White Dwarf, and I was like, I immediately knew it was an Eldar flyer because of the aesthetic of the model and everything like that. The only vehicles that were out back when I was first into the hobby was the Eldar Viper and the Falcon Grav tank had just come out as well. And the flyer was what drew me back into the hobby. And then I looked at the Games Workshop website, which I hadn't done for ages, and I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed at all the new stuff. Now, this is where the aspect of the hobby that I'm addicted to is buying the shiny new things, definitely. Now, could I ever see that taking me down the path of, getting into debt because of that, into serious debt because of that, where, bad things would start happening to me, debt collectors knocking at the door, stuff like that? No, I can't see that happening to me. But I do, the money, that's money I could be saving, putting away for my future, for my retirement, something like that. But instead I go out and I buy these miniatures and it makes me happy. But the thing is, I've bought so many miniatures since I got back into the hobby. Probably, now let's work off the basis of the Orcs, right? I'd estimate I've got about 10,000 points of Orcs, and I have maybe 2,000 points of it painted. Now if you expand that to the rest of the armies I have, so I don't think I have as much painted in the rest of the army. So somewhere between 10 and 20% of my miniatures are painted, let's say. Now that's crazy. I go out and I see the new stuff and I want it and I buy it. An army I really thought I was going to get into was Grey Knights when I was just getting back into the hobby. So I saw on eBay, and this is a danger as well. You think you're getting a really good deal on eBay, and you are, you can get some really great deals on eBay. But I'd look at eBay and I'd start looking at stuff that I hadn't even considered before. But I was just like typing in really generic searches like Warhammer 40,000, and then putting sort by ending soonest. And then I saw this Grey Knight army, and it was like probably about between £200 and £300 worth of Grey Knights, and I ended up getting it for about £110, I think. And I was like, yes, it's a real buzz, and that's what Addiction's about. It's about getting a buzz, and trying to maintain that buzz. And definitely I was ecstatic to have won it. But that Grey Knight army, I think it's like 4 squads of Terminators maybe, a Dread Knight, a Storm Raven, and I'm not sure what else. But that Grey Knight army has sat there now for ages. That was when I was just getting back into the hobby for maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So yeah, that says to me that I'm definitely addicted to wargaming, specifically to buying things for wargaming. Now, the question you've got to ask yourself when you realise you're addicted to wargaming, or to a certain aspect of wargaming, is do I get more out of it than I put into it? And you have to balance that. And so what I've done, I've just written a few things down on a sheet in front of me, and what are the good things about wargaming, what are the bad things about addiction to wargaming. So one good thing is it clears my mind. So when I'm building and painting stuff, I got back into the hobby at a time in my life when I wasn't really happy in work and stuff like that. So I'd come home, I'd build, do a bit of painting, stuff like that. And it'd help really just make me forget my problems, and that really helps me. And it made me happy. So let's talk about a bad thing about it. Cost. Now, relatively speaking, when you compare it to other hobbies, wargaming isn't actually that expensive, because you can buy, for me anyway, for someone who's a really slow painter like me, I can buy a squad of boys, let's say, and it'll take me a couple of weeks to paint it. And a squad of boys is what, 18 quid, I think, if I remember rightly. So that's 18 quid over the space of 2 weeks. That's not expensive at all. 2 weeks, 14 days, it's just over £1 a day. That's not an expensive hobby. I could go out at the weekend, spend money on drink. I'd have a good night, but the next morning, what have I got to show for it, really? I'd spend a lot more than £18 as well on a night out. So, £18 just gets me to and from town, if that. The taxi from my house to town is about 15 quid, 15, 20 quid, something like that. The cost of wargaming isn't really, for me, an issue until you become addicted to it, and then you're just buying things for the sake of buying things. You're buying things because you need things, you don't really need it. Something tells you in the back of your mind that I really need that new miniature, and it's something you don't really need. So the cost only becomes an issue when you are addicted to it. So another thing I wrote down on the good side is it calms my spirit. Now that's similar to clearing your mind, I suppose. I'm not sure how it's different now. I wrote these things last week. I suppose it's it makes me a more reasoned person. Yeah, I say it calms my spirit, so it helps me in life other than just clearing my mind at the time. It makes me a more calm person inside, and going out into the world, I'm less likely to snap at people and things like that. So that's potentially another good side of wargaming. Now, the need to buy is the next bad thing I've written, which is addiction. It's I need the triumvirate of the Imperium in the Fall of Cadia story arc of 40k that's going on at the moment. I really need to buy them miniatures. I need them. The Archmagos Belisarius Call is an absolutely astonishing miniature. Celestine, I've got Sisters of Battle Force. It's unpainted, unsurprisingly. But yeah, I've accumulated a decent Sisters of Battle Force over from eBay, basically, most of it. And the Celestine miniature is fantastic. I've got a Celestine miniature, so I don't need it, but the new one's amazing compared to the old one, and it's really well painted. This one I bought it off eBay. Now it just needs the backpack gluing on with the cape thing that she has behind her with the cherubs holding it up. But this new one, it's different. It's got wings instead of cherubs. It's got doves coming off the hand, and she's just holding a dove on the other one. She's got some roses on her sword, which the thing I like about a lot of the new miniatures is, updated versions of old miniatures, is that they're updating them, but they're staying true to the idea of the original miniature. And that's something that really appeals to me as well, and it makes me think I've got to have that, because it's just like the old one, but better, because it's newer, it's in a better pose. It's the things you can do with plastic these days that you couldn't do years ago mean that because plastic's lighter than metal, you can get away with having like a ribbon holding a miniature up, and it looks a lot more like it's flying than the old one. On the old one, a foot's just like touching the ground kind of thing. And the old Seraphim models, compared to these two Seraphim Superior that you get with it, they just don't compare. And then let's talk about Inquisitor Greyfax. Now, you may have seen, I should say, I did a mini, first look at the Imperial Agents Codex, Agents of the Imperium Codex, and there's formations from that I can swap out an Inquisitor for Greyfax. I'd love to do that, but I don't need the Triumvirate of the Imperium. I just want it. That's what I've got to keep telling myself. So it helps me focus as well, wargaming. Now it helps me focus and recenters my mind. They're all very similar, the good things. That's the thing. There's not a wide-ranging aspect to these good things that I'm saying. It's just like I'm trying to come up with things that are good about wargaming and why it's okay to be addicted to it. Possibly, and that's possibly another sign of addiction, because I'm trying to rationalise it when you can't necessarily. A bad thing is it's amassing unpainted miniatures. I've already spoken about that, so let's go on to the next bad thing, a shelf of shame. That's the same thing, amassing unpainted miniatures. The next bad thing is definitely a bad thing because it's overwhelming, the amount of miniatures you get. Like, I might make an eBay purchase of a 3,000 point Chaos Army, if they took my fancy, let's say. And then I'd have 3,000 points of unpainted Chaos. Now, where do you start with that? You don't, but it doesn't stop you making the purchase. You think, yeah, I'll just get it built and painted. But you don't always, and that's part of the danger of addiction. You don't think about things rationally. And yeah, so let's wind it up there. Really, that's from my experience how I feel about addiction to wargaming. For me, a lot of the time, it's addiction to collection, not addiction to wargaming. You know, I can't see somebody who's addicted to gaming it affecting them in the same way than somebody who's addicted to collecting. Because if you're addicted to gaming, it can lead to you wanting the latest miniatures and stuff like that, but you're going to get them built at the very least, you're going to get them built and so you can game with them on the battlefield. Half of my miniatures are unbuilt. A lot of the stuff I bought on eBay is built. You know, I say to myself, it's half done, it's built, but it's not really half done because I can build a miniature in, you know, in the space of, well, one miniature I can build, depending on how many parts it's in. Let's talk about a big miniature. Let's talk about a reasonably big miniature, a Wraith Lord, for example. I could build that in a couple of hours easily. But would I get it painted in the same amount of time? No, it would take me 3, 4, 5, 6, infinite more amount of time to get it painted than it will to get it built. Yeah, so you've got to, in my opinion at least, try and control the addiction. Try and realise you are addicted before you stop. Now, I am going to try. I think today, on the Warhammer community website, they're supposed to be having some news about the Eldar Triumvirate, I think. So I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to say to myself, do you need it? I know I don't need it, but do you want it? Yeah, I want it. Whenever it's released, depending, I might not really like the miniature, so I might say no, I'm not going to buy it. But depending on when it's released and how far along I am with this night, I might or might not buy it. But what I'm going to try and do is get my current thing I'm working on built, finished, and then I'll decide then whether I'm going to buy the Eldar Triumvirate or not. But, you know, I may come back next week and say, I bought it, I've pre-ordered it. You never know, that's the constant balance of dealing with addiction to something. Now, is it going to affect my life drastically in the same way that drug or alcohol addiction would? I don't think so. But is it going to affect my finances? Yeah. Is it going to affect my relationships with other people? Probably not. Is it going to lead to me, you know, having a life of crime? Probably not. So ultimately, is addiction to wargaming a bad thing? Probably not, like I said. Now, it can be a bad thing because you're just reinforcing a buzz and a desire to get the next big thing, but ultimately it's not going to affect you in the same way that the addiction to illegal drugs or to painkillers even, or to alcohol, it's not going to affect your health and stuff like that in the same way. So is it a major problem being addicted to wargaming? I'd say no. Is it something that maybe you should look at every now and again and check on, keep an eye on? Yeah, definitely. So that's my thoughts. As always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you addicted to wargaming? If you are, tell me. Are you addicted to buying new miniatures? Say in the comments below. You know, share this video if you want to. and we can all have a lovely conversation about addiction. My name's Daniel, and I'm addicted to wargaming. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you on the battlefield.